Hello everybody. I hope that you're well. A huge welcome to my channel if you haven't stopped by before. I'm building out this channel to include lots of different types of videos on human design. So if you're a beginner, hopefully it will give you an introduction to human design and an understanding of the importance of it and why it's so wonderful to know and learn about it and how it can benefit your life. And if you are somebody who already knows about human design, maybe these videos will also act as a refresher because I know, given the fact I have had the pleasure of being in the vicinity of human design for, I think it's nearly 5 years now, and having studied it and obsessed over it and all sorts of things over the years, there are just a couple of, sometimes you just have moments where you're like, oh yeah. So maybe these videos will give you your oh yeah moment. Before I start, if you are watching this video, it would be awesome if you could subscribe. As with everything on YouTube, subscription just helps us an awful lot. And it just means that more people get to see the videos, which is just really, really exciting. And really the only thing I want from this channel is to be able to share and hopefully help you with human design, right? So the aim of today's video is quite an interesting topic. I just thought I would create a video about what human design is and what it isn't. And the reason that I thought, oh, I'll do a video on this is because I recently joined a wonderful big group and it's been great fun, actually. I joined it just by accident. And if you saw my video on parenting, it inspired my parenting human design video, which was really fun. And it's been actually really fun because since then I've been coaching a few parents as well. Children, I just love children. And I think, if you can go into parenting knowing your child's human design and then balancing it with the child that's within them as well. It's just such an amazing blueprint to know, something to observe, to be curious about. And I think, it's really interesting because the other thing I've been seeing in the group is people posting to say, here's my chart, tell me what career I should pursue. Or here's my chart, tell me the type of person I should be in a relationship with. Or here's my chart, and pretty much what does my future hold? And I'm like, no. So human design, if I just take a moment back, and if you've already heard this from me, then I apologize, but I'm just going to start at the beginning. But basically, human design is an amalgamation of a number of ancient wisdoms. So human design is made up of the Kabbalah tree of life, which you will see if you generate your human design chart. And there's a link in the description, by the way, with my website, so effiemoss.com, and you can navigate and create your chart for free. And then you'll get like this design, which is like it looks like the human body with like lots of different shapes. Now, if you were to take that and turn it upside down, it actually takes the form of the Kabbalah tree of life. So that's the Judaic Kabbalah system. Okay. You also have the Chinese I Ching, which is represented by the 64 different numbers that you see within the design. So when you look at the chart, you'll see lots of little numbers. Some will be colored in, some won't be. And those numbers will hold your gifts. It's also influenced by the Western astrology system. So when you create a chart, depending on what website you use or what app you use, for example, you should see lots and lots of different symbols running down the side of that chart. And those symbols will help you to understand things like your purpose, what keeps you stable, the type of energy that you need to be able to keep you grounded in life, what you're here to learn in life, what your blessings are, your south node, so the things that you might experience in the first 30, 35 years of your life, your north node, so what you might experience in your second season, so the later years of your life, the things that maybe your youth themes, which often shows up in Mars. So I've done an entire video, by the way, on my channel about that. So please feel free just to go and have a look. But you'll see that's Western astrology. And then you've also got, so let me just make sure I've gone through this because I am, so Judaic Kabbalah tree of life, Chinese I Ching, Western astrology, and then there was something else. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of all the things and make sure I remember everything. I may remember it in the middle of this video. But it's basically made up of different ancient wisdoms. And it was channeled through a gentleman who changed his name to Ra Uru, who passed away in the 1980s. And there are a number of people who studied with him. So, for example, Karen Curry Parker, who I studied with, she worked with Ra. Jenna Zoe, who you might know from the Human Design app, she's very, very well known for human design. And she teaches it in a really lovely way, as does Karen. Karen teaches it in a slightly different way with slightly different terminology and looks at it from a very, very much a quantum perspective. So really what you are here to actually help the world do. Whereas Jenna kind of looks at it from, what you are here to do. And I kind of look at it from both because I know both, and actually it's sort of emergence of them. And then, of course, you'll come across people who are just purists. And, Rara, who used to say that we don't have a choice, which I actually disagree with. I think Karen disagrees with it. I'm not sure where Jenna is with it, but it's, we always have a choice in our life. And so it's becoming more and more popular, and you'll start to see more and more people in coaching talking about it in business, in their coaching practices, how they can help people in their lives. And it isn't a set of tarot deck, it isn't a set of tarot cards, and it isn't a set of oracle cards. It's not going to foretell your future. I don't think anything can do that. And simply from the fact that you are creating your life in every moment that you are breathing, you have the ability in any moment to be able to change the direction of your life based on the beliefs, the thoughts, and the actions that you take, right? So that's universal law stuff, right? So there's all of that kind of wonderful spiritual stuff as well. But not everybody is leaning into the spirituality, even though we're seeing a massive shift and more people kind of awakening to wanting to be more aligned with their true self, understanding that actually that there is something beyond what we physically see. And you're probably starting to already see things like maybe the things that worked for you up until like sort of last 18 months have suddenly just stopped working for you. We're starting to see older systems fall away. And it's all part of this huge, big movement into kind of us leaning more into our energies, into understanding who we are, into aligning with our own truth. Now, they're quite buzzwords, like aligning with our own truth. And really, human design can help you in lots of different ways. And honestly, it has absolutely changed my life. But knowing the information is one thing. And I think what generally happens is you learn the information and then you might put it down and then you might come back to it because it keeps popping up for you. And then what happens is that over time you start saying, well, actually, that looks quite interesting and that might be something I want to try. And slowly, you'll start to embody it. It was funny because I gave a reading for a beautiful lady yesterday, and Stu, her daughter, and she was just like, thank you for just confirming what I knew. And we are human beings, and life isn't always easy. It throws challenges at us because it is meant to be a journey. And sometimes you are just looking for comfort. Sometimes you're looking for an explanation. And those things can often be found in the human design chart. Now, how to use it. So personally, number one, I use it for my life. So for example, understanding the energy type of a projector, which is what I am, is really, really helpful. Knowing that my husband's a manifesting generator and my daughter's a projector, amazingly helpful. Especially in situations where Clive will just want to go, do. And both Alice and I we just need a nap. This whole expectation that between generators and manifesting generators who look in on reflectors, projectors, and sometimes even manifestors as being a bit more lazy, we're actually not. We have bursts of energy, which means that because our auras are so penetrating and we spend a lot of our time seeing and knowing things that we don't even realize we know or how we know them, right? And we're busy kind of, trying to help people and systems and different facets of our lives become more efficient and guiding people and just, really, there's a lot of wisdom in projectors, manifestors and reflectors. And you'll find that actually because their energy is so penetrating, when they've had a rest and they have bursts of energy, they'll get lots of things done in a short space of time that often it would take maybe other people, 3 times longer. So it's really, really an interesting energy type. So understanding that has been absolutely pivotal to having a harmonious family life. It's also really wonderful because I think I've also been able to use it in my business. So throughout last year in particular, lots and lots of different types of well-being type businesses have popped up. And for those of you who don't know, I also run a marketing and a business and marketing consultancy. So I help small business owners through to medium, through to large business owners with their businesses. And I'm really passionate about strategy, but not only strategy, but also actually making sure that that strategy goes out in the world and does its job, right? And so human design has been amazing for me in terms of business because number one, things like if your energy type tells you how you interact with the world, we also have a strategy. And the strategy is how you make things happen. And I have stories, I have to share them in these videos where, for example, with a projector, I have the strategy to be invited, but only for the big things in my life. It doesn't mean I sit here and I go, well, it's all going to drop in my lap. It's just going to figure itself out. There is a degree of that because you're always creating. But it's for the big things in your life, and career and business, etc. Good fitting clients, for example, tends to fit in that bucket. Relationships do as well, house moves, things like that. And I often challenge projectors to say, well, actually, look back in your life. Look at the things where the big things have happened and think about how they came to you. And every single time that projector will say to you, actually, somebody referred me, or somebody came and reached out to me, or somebody told me to look at something which led to something else. And that's waiting to be invited. That's the strategy to be invited in its truest form out in the world, living and breathing and helping people in their everyday lives. And so with business, I learned that actually when I go out and try and grab clients and bring them into my business, if I used to do things like cold outreach and stuff, I would always end up with misaligned clients. I would always end up with people that maybe didn't appreciate what was being done. Maybe they didn't pay on time. There's always something, right? But the clients that actually found me through different channels and always find me, so I have a lot of faith in this, they always find me through my different channels. My job is to show up and make sure I shine my light and talk about the things that I am passionate with and just be as helpful as I can. And what happens is that my aura then goes out and almost attracts people and then sort of brings them into me. It's very, very interesting. And there's a load of ways of explaining that and, science behind how the aura works and things. But for the moment, we'll just look at it like it goes out and does its job and brings people back to me. And they are the clients that I've been with for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? They're the ones that have stayed with me throughout my growth. And so now, I'm in a point in my life where I'm now exploring human design and I'm just sitting here thinking, right, okay, well, I'm going to be as helpful as I possibly can. I'm going to share this wonderful content. As a projector, very much experimenting and trying to live with her design, I know that the way that I make things happen in the world is wait to be invited. And this week, literally, the moment I started talking about it, suddenly I have somebody asking me to be in a masterclass and talk about human design. A friend of mine called me up and asked me if I would write a column in the Isle of Wight, Style of Wight magazine here on the island, to talk about business, women in business and human design, my two favourite topics, right? I then had somebody reach out who would like a reading for themselves and their child. Somebody else then bought a report and came in to ask me different questions. And it literally all happened within a few days. And it was simply because I stepped into my power and went, you know what? It's okay. I have the strategy to invite and I trust that those things are going to come to me. And different energy types have different strategies. I'm just talking about the strategy for projector just to give you an example and show you how, when I move from knowing about this stuff to actually living it out in my life, the difference that it can make in my life and in my career. And also in parenting, right? Because it's the same with Alice. When she's at school, she's a projector with the strategy to invite. And sometimes she'll give unsolicited advice. She's done it her whole life. And it's been amusing to watch it in a tiny little girl. But as she's become a teenager, she's obviously got frustrated because it's like, Mummy, they're not hearing me when I say something, and blah, blah, blah. And I have to talk to her about, the difference between unsolicited advice and being asked for her advice and her thoughts. And maybe somebody's posing her a question that she can then answer. And the reason that's so important is because when you wait for the invitation, because what you have to say, quite honestly, is valuable. We all have valuable things that we want to say. And what we don't want to be doing is wasting our precious energy that we spend a lot of time refilling and resting and trying to get it to its highest state so that we can shine our light in the world. We want to make sure that when we are sharing and exchanging that energy through advice, through giving somebody something, through creating, if you've got a business that creates something, for example, you want to make sure that the person who's receiving it is actually going to value it right? That they're going to hear what you have to say. And normally with projectors, if you give unsolicited advice, now I've got an undefined throat, so actually this is something I tend to do. I'm like, I know, I've been that person. I know. And it's like, bosh, it just falls on deaf ears and, I'm not heard. And it's frustrating for me. And really, and that's it. So I've learned that actually, when you understand your strategy and how, you make things happen in the world, that actually if you can align with that and then also look in your history, in your story, in your past experiences for confirmation of that, because it is there. I promise you it is there. It isn't something that just happens when you turn 30 or 40, etc. It's followed you since you were a tiny child. You'll then have the confirmation that you need if you need to try and garner that trust, right? If you want to try and create trust in the process and experiment with it. The design also tells you, how you make decisions in the world. And this is different for everybody. There is a lot of talk at the moment with coaches where, we're teaching people, say we, because also I'm working with Tom within Shift. And Tom's doing an amazing job in teaching people how to shift from stress to calm. And the ethos of Shift is really to get out of your mind, right? Get out of your mind and listen to your body, listen to your heart, listen to the feeling in your body. But one of the things I'm always very excited about and things I'm always telling Tom about is that actually what you feel in your body is different for everybody. So I have a splenic authority. For me, that is going to be instant in the moment. It's very, very intuitive. Once I miss that moment, it's gone. It's not coming back, right? And it's very, very, very instinctive. Some people have an emotional authority. So an emotional authority means they're going to experience some kind of emotional wave, and they're very likely going to need to sleep on whatever decision or whatever that they're thinking about. Now, if they change their mind during that process, then the answer is normally a no. If they are consistent, even when they sleep on it and they still come back with a consistent answer, then the answer is normally a yes. And there are lots and lots of different authorities. You've got a mental authority, for example, in projectors. That's an amazing and actually very rare authority. So if you have that, that's unbelievably wonderful. And with a mental authority, you need to talk things out. You almost need to hear yourself saying something to somebody in order for you to work it out. You're not asking for somebody's opinion. You're not asking for somebody's permission. But it's the act of talking, the act of actually sharing, then gives you the aha moment to actually go, oh, yeah, that's my decision. And then you just need to make sure that you have the trust in yourself, that you don't doubt that decision, right? And again, that lies in your history, that lies in your life experience that you have had so far. Those things will have popped up. And if you just take a moment and just really think about, well, hang on a minute, have I used my authority that my chart's telling me in the past? And what has been the result? And then when I haven't used it, what has been the result? And so, for example, with generators, theirs is a sacral response. They will feel it in their gut, right? But not everybody will. And so understanding your authority just ensures that you are making the right decision for you. And the more that you practice, the more you will trust that decision-making process within your body. The human design chart will also help you understand your profile, which is very much to do with your personality. There's often two numbers you are given. Not often, you're always given two numbers. Mine is a 4-6. The 4 is how I see myself. The 6 is how others see me. And when they come together, they literally create my personality type. And the reason that's so important is because that actually contributes massively to how my purpose, how my being in the world is expressed. And that's actually a really beautiful thing, because I often find that with people, for example, with a 3, line 3, all about experiments, right? When I explain to them, well, you've got a line 3 in your profile, it's all about experimentation. You're meant to be going out and figuring stuff out, and you're meant to be getting things wrong, because it's the learning you get from getting things wrong that's actually really valuable for you and helps you get things right and then help other people. People are like, oh my goodness. It's almost like this huge sigh of relief that actually, you know what, my being is perfectly brilliant for me. And that's the thing. I don't know where it started. I mean, it often starts in our childhood, where suddenly other people are projecting their stuff onto us. And often it's, through information we digest, the experiences that we have, and we suddenly start telling ourselves these stories that simply aren't true. And I think what human design does at its core, and what it does so beautifully, is it helps us unravel that. It helps us actually go, you know what, that's actually a bit of nonsense that I've been telling myself, and I've been believing it. And no wonder that's what's been created in my life, because actually they're the actions I've been taking from those beliefs. They don't serve me. Right, what if I actually now start to get closer to my profile, my authority, my energy type, the way I make decisions through my strategy? What if I actually pick those things up and look at those in my life? Does that bring a calmer, more peaceful version of me? Does that create more success in my life? Does it create more abundance in my life, more alignment? Am I a nicer person to be around? Yes, 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 yes. Is it going to actually give me more practical tips to help me with parenting my teenager? Yes, it is. And it's amazing, right? It can do all of these different things. And it is, I read tarot and I read oracle, by the way. So it's not like when you lay out the cards and suddenly you're putting together a story. The moment you have that reading, you could go away and actually make a different decision, and those cards will then tell you a different story. And by the way, with tarot, it tells you what's going on around outside of you. Oracle tells you what's going on inside of you. So if you ever want to kind of understand what is going on inside of you, then Oracle is a really lovely way of doing it. If you want to see what the universe is trying to tell you and give you some messages and things about what's surrounding you, then tarot is quite a nice card to actually pull. But none of it's future telling. None of it is, I'm going to be able to tell your future, right? And it's funny because we create anything that we believe. So if someone tells you something and you latch onto that and create an attachment, you're going to create it in your life. And so therefore it becomes true. But it's not true because someone told you, it's true because you chose to believe it and you chose to take action on it, right? Whereas with human design, what it does is it gives you an understanding. It helps you to honor who you are, and so that you can shine your light in the brightest possible way. The other area that it does as well, that it gives you, is within your energy types, so how you interact with the world, you will have two different types of themes. So when you are on the right path and you are, making really good decisions using your authority, and, life is bumbling along and doing everything that it needs to do, you will have a success theme. I mean, yeah, a success theme. So for projectors, it's success. That's why I said it. You will feel success. It's the only energy type that will actually, it does like success. It's a bit obsessed with success. And it's simply because that is its sign that it will feel, with manifestors, they will feel peace, for example, right? So it very much depends. Your energy type gives you all of this wonderful information, but it also tells you how you might feel if you're not aligned. And with projectors, it's bitterness, right? With a manifestor, it's anger. Right? They're quite strong words. And it's funny because when I first saw my human design chart, I was like, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter. But actually, I did notice that when I wasn't aligned or when I was feeling unappreciated, because I have gone into maybe a business relationship, so a client consultant relationship, that maybe I didn't wait to be invited and I sort of used my will to force my way into it. I didn't feel recognized. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel valued. And what does that create? Bitterness, right? So that's the not self theme of the projector energy type. As I said, for manifestor, for example, it's anger. So each of the 5 energy types has a different positive. When you're aligned and you are in flow and you are doing all of the right things, you'll experience a certain feeling. And when you have a not self theme, which is when you're not aligned, you're kind of like trying to make things happen and you're not feeling seen, you're not feeling heard, you'll then have a theme as well. And even understanding that, because what it does, even in a very busy day, you then have a moment where you literally stand still and go, oh my goodness, you start creating the awareness where you recognize how you are feeling. And feelings are just labels to how the energy is moving through our body, right? It's actually really beautiful because we have hundreds of different types of feelings. Some we commonly use, some we don't. But it's a really wonderful way to actually be able to assess where you are. And if you are into universal laws, for example, Abraham Hicks talks about the emotional guidance system, so that we all have an emotional guidance system within us. Well, that's actually a very, very similar thing. But what we're saying with human design is that you will feel these very specific feelings that pertains to your energy type, if you're aligned and if you're not. So that's super helpful as well. My most favorite area of the human design chart is gifts. These are the little numbers, they come from the Chinese I Ching. I absolutely love the gifts because we express all of the charts. We have all of the charts, right? But we all express the energy of that chart in very, very different ways. There are, colored lines within your chart. There are channels. They're the themes that are going to show up in our life. So, for example, I have the entrepreneur channel. So it makes complete sense that my entire life has been dogged with business success, business is cycling, people asking me for business advice, trying to put human design into business. Like, it makes complete sense. The fact that I've been a little entrepreneur since I was 8 years old when I made friendship bracelets, the fact that when anyone talks to me about a new business, my ears go up and I just want to know. And I'm constantly just trying to learn. And I just love strategy and I love business modeling and I love helping people kind of experience that wonderful, beautiful freedom that you get from having your own business. And that's because it shows up in my theme, right? But those channels, they have a low expression and a high expression, and life will take us through from low to high, back again, up again. And each time, it's as they say, you never start from zero, you always start from experience. And that's very, very, very true for how we express our themes, our channels within our charts. But the numbers on either side of those channels, the numbers that you see within your charts, if they're colored in, then they're going to be consistent gifts that you can access, right? And if they're white, it just means you're going to experience those gifts through somebody else, through your relationships, right? Your partnerships, etc., your children, right? And the gifts for me are amazing because to sit down and be able to say to somebody, you have the gift one. So the gift of creativity, being able to bring new things into form, uniqueness. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to tell somebody. I have, some of them are really interesting. Like I have gift 44, which is all about patterns. And that is part of my business channel. And I have to admit, when I first saw that, I was like, what on earth does that mean? And it's also in my soul design, my purpose. So I was like, what you're telling me? But I also noticed that when I have my gate 19, which is all about the gate of approach, so it's all about trying to help people, just think like it's helping people, which is why at my core essence, I notice that the most success I have is when I'm genuinely from my heart wanting just to help people, right? And I do that all the time, much sometimes to my detriment. And I have learnt boundaries, I've learnt fair exchange of energy and all of those kind of wonderful things, but they are lessons I have learned in my life because that particular gate demands a lot of you because lots of people are often coming to you to help them with things, right? But I have this 19 and it works with this gate 44 and patterns. And I was thinking, how do the two come together? And it was funny because I was having a conversation with a reflector the other day who has literally the same incarnation cluster, same purpose design, and the same profile, but she's a reflector and I'm a projector. And even though they're the same, we're going to express them very, very, very differently, by the way, right? And I was talking to her about the 19 and the 44, and suddenly it just absolutely rained down on me that the 44 gift of being able to spot patterns happens when I'm speaking to people. So if I'm coaching them in their business or I'm reviewing somebody as from a consulting point of view in their business or something like that, I'm able to kind of see what they're not seeing. And it's simply because my head or my innate knowing is actually joining the dots from something I've seen, observed, experienced in the past. And it just somehow has this wisdom and knows this pattern. And that's what I'm able to then express. So it's really, really, really interesting. And then literally, this lovely, lovely lady who was a reflector reflected that back to me. And I just sat there and was like, yes. So the gifts are amazing. I love them. And I'm actually at the moment writing an ebook on the gifts. So if you'd like a copy of that, just please pop your name or just say yes down below and I'll reach out as soon as it's ready, which I'm hoping in the next few weeks, because it is such a beautiful, beautiful area of the chart. And also it's a beautiful thing to actually recognize in your children from a parenting point of view as well. You don't kind of focus in on the ones that are coloured in and ignore the rest. You always need to be aware of all 64 gifts, but you can then start to observe and be curious about the themes that are popping up, and you'll spot it more likely when they are children, because the aura is developing up until they're 7, and when they hit 7, it starts then to mature, and then they start running into their life cycles. It's like 7 to 14, 14 to 21, 21, etc. Right? Plus, plus, plus. And so when they're little, that's when they're at their most innocent. That's when they are at their most unconditioned, right? Life really hasn't imprinted too much on them. in theory by that point. You know, as parents, I know with Alice, it was like my number one goal was to provide a safe, loving home and environment for her that she could fully be, you know, a child in, right? And so it was those early years where I spotted certain things for her, like her needs to kind of like, she spoke at a very early age. Her word count was hilarious at a very early age. And I remember my husband and I making a joke going, well, that's no joke, that's no surprise considering I talk a lot. But actually, it was her way of being able to express. And so she was then able to start asking questions at a very early age. She was able to even kind of rebuff us from a very early age, which made her a very interesting child. But that was her one and her three in her profile showing up. And now I look back, I think, gosh, you know, I wish I'd had this at that point of her life because that awareness would have been so powerful and so helpful as Alice was growing up, especially in those years when you know, she hadn't met her friends yet. She hadn't gone to school. She didn't have the influence of her teachers, right? She's trying to find her voice and her place in the world. And I've watched her go through that. But the beauty is that because I know her design, I'm able to bring her back to it. And because she has a lot of undefined centers, so a lot of white different shapes in her chart, it means that she is going to experience a lot of those energies through her relationships with other people. So it may not feel stable and secure to her. You know, she moved her friendship groups for many, many years, and that only stabilized when she hit like 13 and 14, right? That her friendship group is stabilized. You know, I remember a teacher pulling Clive and I aside saying she doesn't have many friends, but she seems to like speak to everybody, almost like it was a really bad thing. And actually, all she was doing in those early years was trying to discern who her people were. And now that's actually created a really small, solid friendship group that are very loyal and that she adores. And that's a process that's happened in her life. And if I had known her charts in those early years, boy, oh boy, would I have had something else to say about those comments. And it would have helped me with Alice a lot more. So, this is where I'm saying, in practical terms, this is how the chart helps so much. The other thing it can also teach you, obviously, is your purpose, but it isn't necessarily what you do. So remember I said at the beginning of the video, it's like, you know, can you please tell me my future and tell me what it is I'm supposed to do in my career? No. It is purpose for me is who you be in the world. So when you're expressing your gifts, when you're truly aligned, when you trust yourself, when you trust the way that you make decisions, the way that your body feels, when you trust what you do and don't know, you know, don't know as well, because that's also telling you stuff, what you do and don't like, things like that, you know, that helps you to be in the world, to exist, who you came here to be. And that's what Jenna Zoe says. She always says, you know, human design teaches you about who you came here to be. And I think that is reflected in the purpose. And for so long, we were taught the purpose is something you do. It must be my why. And I think that came from like the Simon Sinek book, right? Start with your why. And I think that was so revelationary at that time. We all suddenly went, oh my gosh, that's the thing that we need. That's going to be the answer. And then that why really morphed into needing something to do, something practical, very, very masculine energy. When actually the answer really lies in the mix of the feminine and the masculine. So the feminine is all about the creative, it's all about the being, the inspiration, the light, right? But if we can act in that energy and then take action from that place, right? We will light up like a Christmas tree. And that is who you be in the world. So it will also give you that information as well. It may be confusing at first, but again, as I said, if you look back in your life and you look back in your life experiences and you look back and you're honest with yourself, you will see where it's shown up. And then if you're like me, having done this for many years, you may suddenly still get moments where you just go, ah, next evolution of it. Oh my gosh, right, I've just climbed the next rung on the ladder. Though I don't quite know where the ladder's going, but there we go. The highest expression. Let's just say it was a shiny rainbow at the top. It's also going to tell you things like your strongest sense. So for me, it's feeling, you know, it's really funny because I can walk into a room and just feel the energy in the room and just know, like, okay. Many years ago, I was on a consulting project. And it's really funny because I had traveled from the Isle of Wight to Milton Keynes. And for anyone who knows the UK, it's quite far. And it's like a good 4 or 5 hour track. And I used to travel as a consult for like 3 or 4 days a week and then come home for the weekends. Not something I would do now. And it was funny because I remember just being really full of energy and excited. And I just spent the weekend with my family and I was really happy. And I was going to a really beautiful team and I was thoroughly enjoying the work. And I remember walking into this room and just it was flat. And I couldn't work out why. And I think I'd walked in at like 10:30. And I remember everyone's just looked like they were really busy, but there was something not right to the energy in the room. And I remember walking up to somebody going, "What's wrong?" And they're like, "What do you mean? You've just got here." And it's like, no, I can tell there's something wrong. And it did turn out that there was a little bit of a problem that needed resolving, and that's fine. Alice, sometimes when she comes home from school, Clive and I always try and pick her up together, even now. And she got in the car the other day, and I think I was pondering something and I was lost in my thoughts. And she just literally got in the car and went, "What's going on? What's wrong?" Literally, because she has feeling as a spidey sense as well, and it just makes me laugh. I've had teachers comment on the fact that she observes everything, doesn't she? Yeah, she does. That's her projector energy, like flashing away. And that's also her strongest sense of feeling. You're not going to get past that, I'm afraid. And that's the other thing, knowing that in parenting has been really, really important because, it's sort of guiding her to trust that. Don't ignore it. If you want to ignore it, let's see what happens. But I suspect it's not going to be something that's going to like fill you up. So you're going to end up then going back to like, well, it's okay. I'm going to have to trust my feelings. Because as with anything, as with contrast, you sometimes need to see what happens when I don't use it and then what happens when I do to be able to discern using your authority, what is right for you. And I think, your strongest sense is just, it's amazing, really. My husband's is sound. So he can hear, it's sound and smell, actually. He can smell stuff. When somebody will say, "Oh, I smell something's not right." That's normally because their strongest sense is smell, and even knowing that. So even if you're going into a business relationship or you're doing client work or, you've got a small business and maybe you're hand making something, right? You can generally get a good sense as to even through the order being transactionally given to you through your website, you'll often get a feeling about it. Oh, I'm not sure that's might result in a chargeback. I'm not sure that that's genuine. It looks like they might be doing a bit of a dodge. You'll know, right? Don't ignore that. That is your sense, your spidey sense. And human design will help you, will give you that. So if you run your chart, it will literally show you that. And then have a think about it. And, one of the other things it will give you as well is about how you feel about things. So, for example, for me, I'm non-emotional, which makes everybody smile because I'm one of the most emotional people that people know. And that's simply because I have been conditioned to react and respond to things in a very emotional way because I was brought up by a wonderful mum. She's the best, but she has an emotional authority. So as somebody who has a completely open emotional center, I have nothing to find in it. I'm very, very empathetic. I'm very sensitive. I can feel everything, right? I was brought up in a very dysfunctional as in childhood. It was very Greek, very strict, very dysfunctional childhood. And so emotion was, pretty high during those years. And so, of course, it's what I learned from a very young age. And it's something that I've really worked hard on as I've gone through my adult years. Even to the point that I actually now know that if I'm going to have an emotional moment, I actually let it just pass through my body. And if I need to get it out, I just get it out, put it down, and then I communicate. I communicate to my husband. He knows that actually what I need is touch. And it's really funny because I did say to him once, "Oh, I have touch as my as one of my senses." I said, "Oh, that makes sense because I love hugs, right? I love giving people hugs. If you're talking to me, I'll often put my hand on you, all sorts of things." It's really funny because people will either be okay with that or they'll be like, "Oh, she just touched me." And I noticed that straight away. There's that feeling sense, right? And it's really funny because I said to my husband, we were driving, I said to him, if I get really upset about something or I'm having an emotional moment and I'm trying to let it pass through my body, because obviously I'm trying to decondition the center, I was like, just touch me, like give me on my arm, whatever it is, my hand, hold my hand, whatever it is. Just touch me because it will instantly calm me. And it really does instantly calm me. Sometimes I just need a hug. And given that my husband's love language is service, the idea of touch is just like, oh my gosh, he's asking me for a hug. And he'll just stand there and he's like, and then he's like, "Do you want a cup of tea?" Because it's the act of service that he wants to make me feel better. And I know that about him. So it's brilliant. But we were driving in the car and I think I was having a bit of a moment and I was like, chatting about something quite passionately. And he could tell I was on the verge of tipping into getting a bit annoyed. And the next thing you know, I've seen his hand come across and he's gone like that on my forehead. And I'm like, it took me a second to realize what he'd done. And I burst out laughing. It broke the moment. I was able to regain myself completely. But it was the funniest interpretation of touch I've ever experienced. But at least he was like, listened. So I was quite sweet. But I thought I'd share because it was actually very, very funny. So I know I've been chatting a lot. I feel like this is probably a longer video because I don't even know how long I've been talking for, but I just wanted to really spend some time in this video explaining how human design can be used in your life and in your business and in your parenting. And why knowing your chart, there's nothing in there that's bad. Like there's nothing bad in anything really, but there's nothing in there that you should worry about or be afraid of, or if you are curious, go have a look, ask some questions, and even if it's not me and somebody else resonates, go and ask them. Um, I've started to try and link videos to each of the different areas, which I'm slowly working through. So my vision is that eventually you'll be able to pull your chart and then have little videos that you can just see exactly what each area means. And I'm creating a whole bunch of other stuff that I hope will also help people on a day-to-day, because readings can be a lot of money. The reason readings are a lot of money is, for example, with my readings, I invest 2 to 3 hours ahead of a reading, exploring the charts, exploring the gene key activation sequences. I explore the planetary placements, the different line numbers. I mean, I explore it all so I can really, really give you as much information as possible. And so obviously, all for a fair exchange of that of time and that energy, that needs to equates to a cost, right? So what I want to do is find a way to make human design more accessible. And I think lots of people are working on that, which is just beautiful. But yeah, so lots of exciting things are coming as well, which I am particularly excited about. But if you found this video very, very helpful, as I said at the beginning, please subscribe. Sometimes I see the views and I'm like, where are subscriptions? So do me a favor and please subscribe. I'd be ever so grateful. Plus you'll see an Effie running around the house going, I've got another subscriber, and just really being thankful for it. And it's been fun creating these videos. And if you've got any questions at all, feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think. As always, a two-way conversation is better than me just talking at the screen. And I'm always very, very happy to help. So please do reach out. Take care, everybody, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye.